With that, I'm going to turn it over to Todd to talk about financials.
Hey,
good afternoon. My name is Todd Stupler. I am the Chief Financial Officer of Vickers Landing Senior Services, and we will be presenting you the first quarter results of the fiscal year of 2026. I feel like I can see my notes now. Kind of dark there. Okay, so we're going to start off with the first one here. Is your current assets. As you can see, it increased by $2.6 million. And this is mainly driven by the entrance fee receipts that we had so far in Q1. It is offset by the principal and interest payment transfers that we did for your 21A bond payments that are paid semi-annually. Going down to the held by trustee, as I just mentioned, most of this increase was due to the transfer from unreserved, unrestricted cash assets down to your restricted use assets for the debt service fund that would pay in June. And then the last item on the balance sheet we'll talk about, as you can see, your Oak Ridge project cost. This also includes the Sawgrass parking garage. So it's phase 3, and it increased by $9.4 million, which is online or on budget, which we should see, hopefully, all this wrap up by July, or the end of July. Next page. So this is page 3 of your handout. Again, sorry, I should have told you that ahead of time. Accounts payable and your other current liabilities roughly increased by $280,000. And this is mainly driven by the draws on the phase 3 construction. Next line item, as you can see, I only pointed this out is just because we have one outstanding interest fee refund that we have to do for this fourth quarter, and it did change from pretty much 2025. The next item is the 775. That is the interest and principal funds that we'll have to pay, or excuse me, interest is due on June 15th. So we'll be accruing this through May and then pay it in June. Then the other item down here is the 2024 series of the bonds. Those are our $66 million drawdown bonds, and the balance is $49.3 at the end of March. Next page. So we'll do the statement of operations. As you can see, we are actually about $300,000 ahead of budget and about $750,000 ahead of this time last year. IL, as you can see, we're pretty much right in line where we should be with the budget, which we thought. One thing to point out in the monthly service fee for IL, we have 11 units available at 331, and all 11 are reserved to have a 10% deposit. So no items to sell at this time. And then next on this here is the revenue for health services. We are up about $293,000 or 12.5%. And this is primarily driven by therapy and home health. Also to point out, our health health center and our AL censuses are exceeding a little bit over what we had budgeted, so that's all a good sign. And also talk about your expenses. As you can see, we're actually almost $100,000 favorable to budget. Again, our continued usage of due to the nursing shortage, run a little bit high in labor there. And same way with dining services, we're a little bit up in labor. However, we have made strides to get them back in line with, especially dining services, to back in line with their budgeted shifts. So therefore, we'll see a slight reduction going forward. Go down here, our income from operations. We're at 1.5 to a budget of 1.1, so Ahead of that is just because of, like we talked about, savings in the expenses and a little bit of 400,000 in our income. One thing I do want to point out, and I had a discussion with the member finance committee, and the question came up about amortization, and what happened, there was a miscalculation. So this will be fixed in the month of April. So we are showing about a $400,000 overage in amortization that will be fixed in April. So without that error, we would have been right, I would say about $100,000 difference in where the budget was. So we would have been right in line with budget for Q1 if that mistake would have been caught ahead of time before published. Next page. Sorry about that. Then going back here. So actually, when we talk about here, we would have been about 100,000 unfavorable. And as you can see, most of that is driven right here by our unrealized losses through Q1. So that's our main driver. And as well as the error in the amortization. So amortization and your unrealized loss year-to-date results into the unfavorability to budget. Next page. We are going to go through cash flow. As you can see, from cash provided by operating is about $5.8 million. And as you can see, most of that is driven by the net entrance fees. Next page. Cash used for investment of $13.9. Most of that is driven by the $12 million for our CapEx, which is our routine assets or CapEx expenditures on these projects here on the Sawgrass, as well as our project over at Oak Ridge and the Parkland Garage, as I mentioned. And then the last item here is cash provided by financing facilities. Activities is the 10.2, and all you can see that was our proceeds from the $66 million loan that we have from Hancock Whitney. And then on our cash statement, as you can see, we were about $2 million over, or excuse me, $2 million over what we had last year at this time. And like we talked about, that was due to net interest fees offset by the transfer of funds down to the restricted, which, as you can see, is the principal and interest is driving those favorabilities. I did receive a direct question from a member that didn't really go through the proper channels, but I wanted to take the time to answer that question. And there was two parts to his question. The first part is, he's like, I recall Darren Roy's reporting at one time, or one of these meetings, that as far as back as he could see, that Life Care Palma Vida had not hit what he considered to be a positive, good score on the actuarial coverage analysis provided or required by the state. What is the latest assessments of those measures, and what steps management is taking to improve those results? And is management confident that E-Town expansions won't impede on these goals? So when I looked through this, I did my analysis and review, and we get an annual compilation report from A.V. Powell, which is our actuarial. And from the December 31st, 2025 compilation report, the A.V. Powell, it is their opinion that the financial condition of the Vickers Landing is in satisfactory actuarial balance, as defined by the Actuarial Standards of Practice number 3. One thing to point out is our funded status and unified status are both over 100%, which is very strong per the A.V. Powell standards. If you recall, I think this is what the comment was about how old it was, but our funded status back in 2020 was less than 94%. So we have made strides to get to well over 100% in 2023, 24, and 25. And also, I think what was confusing about the time, I think Darren made a point that he thought we would qualify for the A.V. Powell Gold Seal, which has not been done. But in 2024, we took on the Oak Bridge Phase 3 project, which is the memory care and AL, and the debt associated with the project. We were not awarded that gold seal at that time. And then lastly, to answer that last part of his question, the E-Town will not affect the actuarial status of this of LCPV, because E-Town is a completely separate entity and not included in any financial or actuarial status of LCPV. And then the second part of this question, our bond rating of BB plus stands a stark contrast to Fleet Landing's longstanding investment grade rating of BBB. Does management have a distinct objective in achieving an investment grade rating? And if so, when? Do expansion plans strengthen or weaken possibilities of improvement? While, we all strive to get back in investment grade, our priority is consistently reinvesting in our facilities while maintaining a strong positive trend in financial metrics. In other words, we focus on, in other words, we do or would not focus solely on the debt rating of the cost of our facilities deteriorating or becoming dilapidated. We need to keep reinvesting for our future members. We expect to see improvement in our rating in time as the new memory care and assisted living units fill and get stabilized, and our liquidity growth increases. This occurs when it is in part by the liability balance of refund interest fees decreasing, and at the same time, we plan to proceed with our renovation to the Sawgrass campus that are critical to both current and future members. While Fitch views renovations with less risk than expansions, these capital investment projects may still extend the time period before they see us fully stabilized and meeting their criteria for an upgrade. It is important to note that consistent with actuarial discussion above, the E-Town campus expansion will not impact the LCPV rating at any time. I hope I answered his question, and I will hand this over to Kendall.
Good afternoon, I'm Kendall. I've got two topics to go over with you today, construction and hurricanes, and we'll start with the fun one first, and that's hurricanes. We have two important dates coming up, and I just wanted to make sure we got them on your calendars. The first is going to be May 21st. That is our Hurricane Awareness Day. We'll be conducting our hurricane evacuation drill starting at 9 o'clock that morning. This is going to cover alerts 1 through 4 like we did last time, where we just do them all in one day. And we'll do that here on both campuses. That's also the day the NOAA will release their official 2026 hurricane outlook, so we'll have the season's forecast at hand. The second date is June 2nd at 10:30. We'll hold our annual hurricane meeting right here in this auditorium. Our guest speaker, as usual, will be Kelly Wilson from the St. Johns County Emergency Operations Center. She'll walk through what you need to know heading into the season, and I would certainly encourage you to come to that. So I did a little research to see what are they saying about the hurricane season now. And the unofficial forecast calls for a below average Atlanta hurricane season. 13 named storms, 6 hurricanes, 2 of which are expected to be major. So the primary reason for the quieter season is La Nina is transitioning to El Nino, which increases wind shear and tends to suppress storm development. Here's the important part. Even in a below average season, Florida carries the highest named storm rate risk of any state in the country this year. There's a 74% chance of named storm impacts in Florida, a 43% chance of a hurricane impact, and a 21% chance of a major hurricane. AccuWeather has flagged elevated risk from Tampa up to the Big Bend, and also along the Carolinas, which puts us right between 2 major areas of elevated concern. The bottom line, as the slide says, it only takes 1. So a below average season doesn't mean a safe season. So that's why we take the drill in this meeting seriously, and we hope you will as well. Shifting to construction, because I really thought our last meeting was my last one, but it's not quite. The new health center at Oak Ridge is getting very, very close. Construction on Laurel Oak, which is our 43-bed assisted living, is on track for construction completion in late May or probably early June. Willow Oak, which is the 18-bed memory care building, we anticipate a June opening. So the building itself will be open, the administrative offices upstairs, the break room, the support areas. What it requires as a separate step is the license to operate the memory care or assisted living. So that license has been submitted to AHCA, the Agency for Healthcare Administration, and we're waiting on their review. Once that license is issued, we can begin accepting members into Willow Oak, and when Laurel Oak is complete, there's a process of adding those units to the Willow Oak license, again driven by AHCA, but we'll keep you posted on all that progress. Parking garage, that's almost done as well. It's moving right along. The exterior siding installation has begun, and that should all wrap up by the end of this month. They're putting in a sanitation line, and once that sanitation line goes in, they're going to be able to pour their final pour, which will be the ramp going up. Well, you can't see it in this picture, but that's the entry ramp, and there's one piece left to pour there. And then the elevator installation is also scheduled to be done by the end of this month. So we're still on track for a July 1st opening, and that's going to make a real difference for parking on this campus, and also how we manage operations with plant ops and laundry. I ran by last week just to take a couple of interior shots, and the top left is the side entry that'll be for laundry and plant operations. The top right shows you the door that's leading into the new laundry area. The bottom left, those three bays are going to be the plant operations area where they'll be able to have a lot of storage. And then you have the interior of the laundromat. I believe that's the washing machine row. So it's going to be a very nice space, but it's happening fast. There's a lot of activity over there. And last but not least is pedestrian access. The pedestrian path connecting Oak Ridge through Sawgrass Village to the public shopping center, the engineering plan is complete. The Sawgrass Village Executive Center Association has approved the sidewalk crossing. We are currently drafting the access rights documents, and we've been briefing the key stakeholders and getting all of them to sign off. Once all the key parties have given their final approval, Dale's going to take that packet along with the engineering plans to Publix. So that's the next major step. At that point, we will be able to make that plan public. He does not want to release that publicly until Publix has it in their hand. So we're not there yet, but it's getting closer. With that, I believe we have Elizabeth.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Scholler, Executive Director. So I'm going to provide a few updates on the operating departments, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to cover the communication and management portion, and each of the department heads will be talking about their responses about their departments from the most current resurvey of member satisfaction. So just a reminder, next week, we have our monthly Leadership Connect meeting. This gives members an opportunity to meet with senior leadership. Bruce's comment is there's no agenda, no meeting, it's just conversation. So we encourage you to attend. The meeting next week will be held on Wednesday, May 20th at 2 p.m., the Sawgrass campus in the members conference room. So we hope to see you there. So member satisfaction resurvey results. I'd like to thank each of you that took the time to complete the survey that we sent out on March 31st. The survey was intentionally created to resurvey the 10 lowest scoring questions from last year's member satisfaction survey. It covered dining, housekeeping, management communication, maintenance, wellness, safety, and security. So we received 185 member surveys back, and there were also a lot of comments. So we compiled the comments into groups and like comments so that each of the departments can share their individual results with you and also talk about the action plans that they will continue working on. So the good news is every department showed either maintaining satisfaction or increasing satisfaction in the areas that were identified in last year's survey. So on communication, how well does the community keep you informed about updates and changes? So 64% rated extremely well or well. 27%, 28% rated adequately, and 7.6 rated poorly. So our takeaway is that nearly 2/3 of our members who responded feel well informed, but that leaves about 35% of members who see room for improvement. So one of our new initiatives that we will be launching in the next few weeks is a communication plan. And the goal for the communication plan is to ensure consistent, timely communication. This is from all departments, not just from senior management. This will be on events, repairs, outages, and community notifications. Why are we doing this now? Well, we heard the response that 35% of you feel that we could communicate better, and that's what we're planning to do. The focus area will be close perceived information. It will close our gaps and improve satisfaction scores. You will feel better informed, and as a result, will feel more satisfied. Our approach will be a standardization of our communication channels. This will be by Cubigo, by Call-em-all, by Constant Contact, and the Vicar's Voice. We'll also be creating templates for our mechanisms of communication, such as memos and the like, utilizing specific font size, specific logos, so that things are very easily recognizable, and you will be able to identify the intensity or the seriousness of the communication based on how you receive it. So we're in the process of finalizing the phases, and we'll be rolling that out in the next few weeks. So thank you. Donna will begin the operating reports with her findings.
Good afternoon. I'm Donna, the Director of Housekeeping, and I'll give the results of the survey for housekeeping. Overall satisfaction results were strong, with a 90.1% of respondents reporting they were very satisfied or satisfied. The 5.5 neutral and the 4.4% dissatisfied responses indicate there is still work to be done. The comments yielded the following focused areas: consistency and cleaning standards across units, increased attention to detail in high visible areas, proactive communication and responsiveness to housekeeping requests. So what we plan on doing is to conduct weekly random apartment inspections and to reinforce unit cleaning checklists for our housekeepers, so they have a guideline of what they need to do each time they go into the units. So by addressing these refinement areas and reinforcing best practices, housekeeping can continue to build on its strong performance and shift a greater percentage of members from satisfied to very satisfied, further enhancing overall member experience. And anytime that you guys have questions or concerns, please feel free to call us in the housekeeping office, and we would love to address those. So with that, I would turn it over to Alan, Director of Security. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Once again, my name is Alan Barker, and I am your Director of Security and Transportation. So what I'd like to do is to go over the results of our feedback in which we received from you as part of your member survey. And let me just first say that I look at feedback as a gift. So first and foremost, thank you for your feedback. It only makes us better, it only makes us better informed, and it only makes us better prepared to serve you. So we've looked at what you have communicated to us, and we've listened carefully. So there are some areas in which you said we worked very well at. What's working well, in your opinion? The visible and approachable security team, which is always a plus. I take great pride in that personally. Also, the controlled access points across the campus. You spoke very highly of that. And thirdly, what you thought was working very well was the overall appreciation of our staff. And we thank you for that. You know, we really appreciate the thanks and the kudos in which you give to our team each and every day. And it's well appreciated. So thank you for that. So obviously, you know, we are a team, we want to do better. So obviously, there's no surprise that there were areas of concern in which you had brought to our attention. And some of those concerns were fire alarm audibility in some of the apartments, the insufficient fire drills and safety education, which was noted. You also spoke about the walkers that are left in the dining room, which can create fall risks. We looked at that. And also reliable notification, emergency notification, something in which Elizabeth had talked about, standardization of our communication protocols. So we looked at all of that as areas of concern. So of course, we have a response to that. There are things in which we're currently working on and will continue to work on. First and foremost, fire alarm audibility. I just want to let you know that all of our buildings have been inspected and they are NFPA compliant. So we are up to code with respect to the audibility of the alarms within our buildings. Monthly drills and briefings, evacuation drills and safety briefings are now standard. I've had the pleasure of coming to some of your apartments and giving safety presentations, emergency presentations. We will continue to do that with each and every building. So the plan is prior to a scheduled building evacuation, I and my team will come in and have a conversation with all of you prior to the evacuation drill, letting you know what to expect, what our expectations of you are in terms of participation, and what you can expect from us with respect to execution of making sure that the drills go about very well. So we're going to continue to do that building by building. Dining room safety. I've instructed my security team to be on the lookout to make sure that the pathways are cleared, and if there are any errant walkers that are in the area, just make sure that they're off to the side so that we're not creating any safety or trip or fall types of scenarios within the dining room. So we're working on that now. And emergency notifications. We're using, as I hope that all of you noticed, you know, we are been very proactive in terms of using Cubigo and using Vickers Voice. I've just received the training on call, and also in terms of emergency notifications, there are a number of different vehicles in which we're going to be using, and you will see a vast improvement in how emergency notifications are pushed out to all of you as members. So with that, again, I just want to thank you for your feedback, and to, again, also thank you for your warm welcome to me into the community. Thank you so much. We have Enver.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Enver, like a Denver without a D. Enver. And I have a plan operation resurveys results. We have a strong improvements in overall member satisfaction. Out of 185 beautiful members, they give us excellent 74.1%, good 22.7%. Fair, it's about 5 people at 2.7%, and a need improvement 0.5%. Next slide. What we have is advance notice prior to work. What we're trying to do is standardized communication. We have calls, written notices, and digital platforms that a lot of you guys are familiar with. Clear timelines for multi-day work. We're going to share extended duration and provide updates of projects in progress. Fortunately, in the plant operation, that happens sometimes, and we're going to do our best to notify you of the duration of those projects. Weekend and after hours responses, reinforce emergency phone number, on-call staff, and front desk dispatch. We was privileged to have we hired actually maintenance tech to be here on weekend very soon. We're going to have one maintenance tech full-time, Saturday and Sunday. Communication and coordination, leverage all platforms for timely, accurate, and consistent notifications. Again, it's all about notifications. Standardized advanced communication as a required service standards. That's our action plan. Ensure consistent communication across all platforms available. Reinforce after hours and weekend responses protocols. Commitments to improve communications and transparency. Standardized procedures to drive consistency. Goal continue increasing in member satisfaction, of course. And that's all I have. Thank you, guys. Oh, this is Robert.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Taylor. I'm the Director of Dining Services. So our results, considering the changes made, how would you assess the directions of dining services? So 21.1% said there's great improvement, 63.9% said there's some improvement, 15% said no improvement. So how satisfied are you with the variety and the selections of the menu offerings? 19.1%, very satisfied, 37.2% satisfied, 29% neutral, 14.8% dissatisfied. So members note improvements in the food temperatures, presentation, and service. We are making progress, but still have a lot of areas to focus on. Menu complexity, there's too many variations hurting the consistency. Protein execution, uneven preparations and quality. Takeout accuracy, order errors affecting the satisfaction, and then service training. Hospitality standards need reinforcements. So, dining focus and action plan. Based on the compiled member comments, the following actions are underway. Simplify the menu, reduce variations to improve consistency. Quality checks. Reinforce recipe and plating standards. Hospitality training. The rollout of an updated service training manual. Takeout accuracy. Staff sign-out systems to verify orders. And Oak Ridge capacity. Reservation controls to reduce overcrowding. That's it for me. Lex is next.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lex Gonzalez, your Director of Wellness and Rehab. I'll just echo Alan real quick. It is a gift to have your feedback because it gives us a clear picture of what we're missing, what we're doing okay, and where we need to grow. So as far as the results, with the introduction of the Thrive Wellness Program, 23% of our respondents said that they are very satisfied with the programming offerings that we provided this year, and 45% are satisfied with the program offerings. So that tells us that many of our members are happy with the program offerings, but the numbers also tell us an important story, which is that we still have a lot of room to grow and improve in, and that is in recognition that the department is less than a year old, but at the same time, we are working toward getting a lot more program offerings and choices for our members. Some positive feedback that were shared. A lot of our members note improvements in the following: expanded fitness options. True enough, this year we are offering, or we offered 10 pool exercise classes, 10 different pool exercise classes on different days with different instructors on different times, so a whole lot more options. We also offered different new classes, including Tai Chi. A couple of weeks ago, I saw a group in Oak Ridge. They did their Tai Chi outdoors in the gazebo. What a beautiful way to take advantage of the beautiful space. And we also have personal training that we introduced this year. So it's personal one-on-one training for a fee. And right now, we have 8 members subscribed to that program. and receiving those personal one-on-one training. Next, educational speakers and health programs. We strive to have more speakers, especially for our Wellness Thursday speaker for different topics. This month, we had a physician from Baptist Hospital share with our members on the topic of stroke, what to do and what to watch out for. And we have over 60 of our members attend. And this month, or next month rather, we have a topic on emotional and social resilience. So I would invite you to join that as well. Another one is outpatient therapy presence. It is very much appreciated by our members that they do not have to drive outside of our gates to receive exemplary rehab services. It's all in here. And just to clarify, as we are looking forward to the opening of the outpatient therapy clinic in the Willow Oak at Oak Ridge, we are maintaining outpatient therapy presence on both campuses, meaning outpatient PT, OT, and speech therapy will still be provided here at Sawgrass and will also be, in time, provided at Oak Ridge. And finally, perception of a healthier community culture. I think all of the fitness options, educational and health programs, and therapy services that we provide just all encompasses. And I believe it's not just a perception, it is very intentional from the department to really amp up the health and wellness of our members. Looking at the areas of focus for our department, the first one is duplicate calendars and materials. So I think this came about in our attempt to hit as many communication channels as we can to really get the word out, but unfortunately it has resulted to a fragmentation of our communication. It has resulted to so many papers and to so many calendars, and we hear you. So what we're gonna do going forward is we will consolidate all of those into Vickers Voice as well as Cubico. Next, re-articulate Thrive purpose in plain language. So what we will do is we will submit explainer articles to Vickers Voice on what Thrive is, better explain it in plain language so that our members will understand as well on what exactly is Thrive's purpose and its goals. Next, opt-in, encouragement strategy. So many of our members are asking, hey, how can we get the word out some more? So in order to consolidate the calendars and all of the announcements that we have, I think another strategy would be to advance program schedule notification, meaning trying to get the word out far in advance as much as possible so that more of our members would know what's happening. And finally, expand small group outings and social wellness. So just this week, I actually met with our activities department, and we are in the process of creating more programs and events to provide options for our members, and that includes expanding our art classes, increasing our small group outings, and more community engagement type of events. So these are the action plan that we're going to be focusing on going forward with the Wellness and Rehab Department. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, Vickers Landing community. My name is Hannah Mills, and I'm the Health Services Administrator. Today for the Health Service Department, I will be going over some further updates on Willow Oak, our memory care, and we'll also be making some very important introductions. So to get started, our updates on Willow Oak. Our hiring progress continues across all departments. This includes interviews, onboarding, and getting people into our community and trained on the Vickers Landing Way culture. The Montessori training for staff will kick off in early June. Our goal is to have most of our staff kind of on board before we go ahead and get that started, so it can be a group activity that everyone can really connect as a team while we do that training. The Tober TOEFL has been installed, so as a reminder, that's not just gibberish up there on the screen to confuse you. Tober TOEFL is Dutch for magic table. So this is a table which has a sensor above it, and as someone touches the table to interact with it, it will respond. It is intended to be calming, engaging, and very effective for those who are in the memory care setting. So if you are joining us for those tours that are coming up, you will be able to see this in action and even get to interact with it yourself. We have continued preparations with our vendors and our clinical partners. This includes making sure our contracts are ready to go and that any software applications are ready, so that is not a holdup when we are ready to start operating there. As Kendall mentioned, our license has been submitted, our application has been submitted, so we are currently pending that review. And next, we have our upcoming tour schedule. So I will run through this briefly, but this information should also be available for you to see on Cubico. So starting with Oak Bridge members, on Tuesday, May 19th, we will have cottages 1 through 24 slated for 9 to 10 a.m., cottages 25 through 48, 10 to 11 a.m., Kent Building, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., Lancaster Building, 1 to 2 p.m., and Marlowe Building, 2 to 3 p.m. The following day, we will have Sawgrass members touring. That's Wednesday, May 20th. So Amesbury and Banbury will be 9 to 10 a.m., Cranley and Duffield, 10 to 11 a.m., Elstead and Farnham, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., Guilford and Henley, 1 to 2 p.m., and Inverness and the Canterbury homes will be 2 to 3 p.m. And then finally, we will wrap up our tours on Thursday, May 21st. For our Stratford members, they will go over from 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. So next up, we have our introductions. We would first like to welcome Miss Lindy Mullen. She's our transitional care liaison, so she's standing over here. Going to give everyone a great smile and a wave for us. In her role, Lindy will walk alongside members and their families who may find themselves considering a transition to one of our assisted living communities. Environments. We're all in the same community here. She will be there to offer guidance, answer any questions, and provide support and compassion every step of the way through that transition. She will also be involved in the expansion of some of our wellness and healthcare services. So that is going to include outpatient therapy, private duty home health, and our integrated memory enhancement program, IMEP, which has now had a name change under the Thrive program to be called Mind in Motion. And so the intention with this name change is really just to highlight the benefit of this programming for everyone's brain health, even if you are not yet experiencing strong cognitive difficulties. So we're very excited to welcome Lindy and what she can do to expand these programs for our members. Next up, we would like to welcome Heather Lopresti as our member support coordinator. So we will turn once again. Welcome, Heather. So as Stephanie Gabala transitions into the role of Oak Bridge ALF manager, Heather will become the first point of contact for navigating any hospitalizations or needs for the health center. She will continue working as a team with our wellness clinic nurses and ensure that all members receive the support they need as they encounter any acute care episodes. She's passionate about helping individuals succeed by providing resources, addressing concerns, and guiding informed decision making. So we're very excited to welcome her here. As we do have an official transition date for when Stephanie is going to be moving over to our Oak Bridge campus and Heather will fully take on the reins of this role, that will certainly be publicized so everyone is aware of who their best point of contact is. Regardless, if you send a message to either, I am sure the team will get it to the right place. Okay, and finally we have not a welcome, but a celebration of a team promotion that we've had recently. So Miss Carrie Levitt has been our Assistant Director of Nursing here for some time, and we'll turn and say hello to Carrie if you would like. She has been at Vickers Landing for 8 years now, since 2017, starting as an LPN on the night shift. So now she's credentialed as an RN, and she's made so many meaningful contributions to our department, and we look forward to continued leadership under her as Director of Nursing. And that is all for our health services updates. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bruce Jones. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Vickers Landing Senior Services. And keeping in the theme of introductions of new staff, we do have some executive leadership positions that have changed. We wanted to ask them to come up and introduce themselves. So we'll start with Stephanie Monroe, who is our new Chief Human Resources Officer. Stephanie?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Monroe, and I'm the Chief Human Resource Officer. Okay, just wanted to make sure I wasn't stepping out. So I've been here for 2 months. March 16th is when I started. Over the last 2 months, I've been evaluating how we attract, hire, welcome, and retain our employees. And so let's start at the very beginning with how are we recruiting and attracting those candidates. So one thing that I identified was hiring had become very decentralized, and while that gave our department heads a lot of speed in probably finding those candidates, we lost a little bit of consistency with how we hire and the quality of candidates. So we're going to shift to more of a structured partnership with a recruiting model where HR will have a more active role in finding those candidates and supporting out with those managers. The goal isn't simply fill positions faster, but is to bring on employees who truly fit our culture and are more likely to stay and grow with us. And then to build on that same, we wanted to look at, well, once we recruit them, what's next? And so how are we onboarding? So I've been working with the culture committee, and we wanted to take a closer look at our day one orientation. So with that, we, up to this point, have been very compliance heavy on our day one, where most of our new hires were spending hours sitting at a computer doing their training. And while that information is important and needed, it did little to create connections, and it didn't really represent the culture that we have here at Vickers. So with the culture committee, we redesigned our day one orientation to feel more welcoming, interactive, and relationship centered. We did some simple changes by rearranging the room setup so they're more in groups and not sitting in rows. We removed duplicate training so that they're not sitting at a computer for 8 hours. We also removed any training that wasn't beneficial for all employees. We also did some things such as we shifted our lunch to sit into the dining room, which is much more of an inviting environment than a training room. So now the new hires are sitting in the dining room in one table. The HR team also joins them, and then all the department heads have been stopping in to say hello, which is a great welcoming for that new hire. We are going to continue looking at orientation by rolling out a phase 2, which would include some interactive training. So we're still going to do those same trainings that they're currently sitting at a computer, taking on their own. We're going to turn those into interactive training with some of our department leads, and people, members off of their team will come in, and instead of watching a video on workplace safety, for example, we'll have our director of security come in and talk about workplace safety and make it a more engaging session for them. And then the other big thing that we're going to be rolling out in phase 2, which will happen in June, is a CARES Connect, which is basically a buddy program. You're probably all familiar with that. So all of the departments will identify a couple people on their team that will be part of the CARES Connect program. Each of those employees will then take on the role of coming in and meeting with the new hires, sitting and having lunch with them, but they will also be responsible for proactively checking in with the new hires during their first 90 days. And they'll be a trusted resource that when a new hire has a question, they'll know who to go to. So our goal with a new hire orientation refresh is to help make sure employees feel supported, that they feel a part of the community, which we believe can significantly impact their confidence, increase their engagement, which of course will help with the retention. And then the last piece I wanted to share is we did our employee engagement survey. So every year we do that. We did it in April. This year I'm pleased to announce we had 324 completed surveys. That represents 74% of our eligible employees took the survey. The Nogari is still compiling all the feedback. We should have it by the end of the month. Once we have that feedback, we'll be able to start taking some meaningful action towards that.
Thank you, Stephanie. Very happy to have her here. And the other transition, some of you are aware that Bruce Forsanger is starting to reduce hours and move toward retirement. And so our new full-time Chief Development Officer, the person in charge of the Vickers Landing Foundation, is Kathy DeSiena.
Thank you, and thank you so much to those of you who have stopped by, and I've had such a warm welcome. Thank you for your visits, your kind conversations, and I look forward to more of those. Throughout my career, just really a brief overview, I've had the opportunity to work in several areas of senior living and with some wonderful nonprofit organizations. I'm truly thrilled to be here at Vickers Landing. I love the community, I love the culture, and I look forward to serving you. I think the most important or the most enjoyable part of my role is learning more about you, hearing your stories, and sort of connecting you with what's important for your giving and for your impact. So I look forward to meeting with you and hearing what your goals are and how those can best serve here at the community. So thank you for welcoming me, and I look forward to spending some time with you.
Okay, let me just get my iPad warmed up here. We did have several questions that were submitted ahead of time, and so we will review those, and as always, I'll go through all these questions, and then we will open it up for questions from the floor. So the first question that was submitted ahead of time says, Vickers Landing hired a landscape contractor to plant oak trees at Oak Ridge. After 2 years, I see no improvement. They look pathetic. Should be replaced with live trees. Is there no warranty with your vendors? Burnham Oak Drive should be Burnt Oak Drive. So, I think I know where this person stands. So these trees, and this is after consulting our arborist and our team, the trees are still experiencing transplant shock, as they were more mature trees that were then moved here and transplanted. And I'm told it can take 5 years or so for transplanted trees to fully recover. So the landscape contractor has been addressing soil issues and treating the trees with a fungicide bark treatment to protect the trees from root rot. The treatments intentionally slow leaf production so that the tree focuses its energy on strengthening the roots. So that's why you don't see as many leaves coming out. So we're a couple of years into this, we'll have a couple more years, and we should start to see them act more like oak trees. The second question says, when are fire drills scheduled for the flats at Oak Ridge? In June, Alan, who you just saw, and Toy, our leaders in security, will hold emergency procedure and fire safety awareness sessions with members in the flats. At that meeting, dates for drills will be coordinated and scheduled. The next question reads, when a fire alarm is activated in the Oak Ridge flats, a loud noise is heard in the public areas, but it is difficult even for the non-hearing impaired to hear it inside the individual units. Is the system working as intended? So as you heard from Alan, the systems are working as intended and meet all fire protection standards. Part of our staff response in emergencies is to check each home to ensure that occupants have left. If there were a fire or smoke emergency happening in your home, the detectors in your home would also be alarming, in addition to the general fire alarm. So if you just hear the faint alarm in the hallways, that's a good thing because that means the emergency is not in your apartment, but someone will be along if there is a true emergency to make sure that you safely exit and get down the fire stairwell. The next question. Management notices currently are sent through multiple channels, from snail mail through email to Cubigo. In order to keep abreast of activities, it is necessary to look at all of them. Would it be simpler to use emails as the primary mode and use Cubigo for backup clarification? So as you heard from Elizabeth earlier, we are addressing communication concerns. We are still in a period where some people understand the use of Cubigo, some still use email, and some rely heavily on paper. So we want to have a plan that works for everyone and make sure that everyone is fully informed. But that communication plan that Elizabeth mentioned earlier is going to address those concerns. Next, what is the status of the plans for the Sawgrass campus? So as I've shared in previous meetings about the master plan, we're not going to do anything past the garage and operations center until Oak Bridge is done and stabilized. So we're going to be finishing those shortly. We'll get through this year, and then we'll pick that back up. We did, however, start to consider the possibility of reimagining the healthcare building. You may recall, if you attended one of the master plan presentations, that the current plan was to build a new health services building where the current Stratford is. But we started talking as a team about logistics of that, and would we be able to build onto the Stratford instead of replacing it, much like you see hospitals do. And so we've asked the architects to review the feasibility of that, and they're doing that now. I don't have an answer as to whether that will work at this point, but we will be considering that. And should the plan change, then I will do additional presentations so that you know what the plan is. So next is Stratford not going to be turned down? Again, once the architects have considered the options, we'll make that determination. Someone says, promised bocce and shuffleboard 4 years ago. So we did not promise bocce and shuffleboard. We would like to build a bocce court over at Oak Bridge, and we'll continue to evaluate the possibility and the location for that. I know shuffleboard was brought up by one resident, and we found that there just was not general interest among members for a shuffleboard court, so that's currently not in the plans. Next, when will the walking path from Oak Bridge be completed? So I have nothing other new to report other than what Kendall had reported earlier. We are working with Publix, and since that path goes on to their property, we are beholden to them. We need to make sure that they agree with the plan and allow us to move forward. What will be the fate of the Sawgrass Parlor? So as I showed in each master plan presentation, the parlor will move slightly to the east and will be enlarged and keep that same feel with the glass overlooking the beautiful water in front. And at this point, we have no plans to change from that course. Next, Bruce Forsanger's retirement was recently announced. It sounded like he was continuing on in a consulting role. Will he be paid for this? If so, for how long? It seems like this is continuing the pattern set when Dale Perkle and Darren Roy retired. Are they still being paid as consultants? Those arrangements don't save Vickers any money. In fact, they end up costing Vickers more money. So Bruce Forsanger will be paid for any part-time work that he continues to do for us. Dale is still being used regularly, and Darren is currently nearing the end of his engagement and is phasing out. The arrangements are all within the management company, however, so there are no fees that come to Lifecare Ponte Vedra for any of them. Next, there is a sentiment among current Vickers members that associating the lower quality, lower amenities of the new E-Town project with the Vickers name diminishes the high quality image of the Vickers we live in and support. Please comment. Secondly, are we paying without compensation any expenses toward the E-Town project? So I'm not sure where this person got the impression that the quality and amenities would be lower at E-Town than they are here, but that's not the case. We would not keep the Vickers Landing name if it were not the same level of quality. So the quality will be the same as right here in Ponte Vedra Beach. And as has been stated several times before, Lifecare Ponte Vedra is not paying for anything related to E-Town. It's a separate corporation financed separately from this community. What is the amount of the upfront investment in the new hydroponic greenhouse, and what are the ongoing costs and savings? So Bruce had mentioned this previously. The cost of the greenhouse is $175,000, which is a deep discount because we will be the first retirement community to have this greenhouse, this type of greenhouse on our campus. We have also reported that Alden White Contractors, the group that has built the Assisted Living and Memory Care Center, has sponsored $100,000 of the cost through the foundation. The payback is projected to be less than 2 years, thanks to cost savings, and the product you will receive will be much more fresh and nutritious. So in addition, we have several people who have expressed an interest in volunteering, which provides an activity of interest and an opportunity for socialization and healthy movement. So we're looking forward to getting that completed. Following on to that, green vegetables are notorious as carriers of salmonella viruses. What expertise do we have to mitigate that risk? So the vegetables grown in our greenhouse will be organic. They will not sit for distribution like grocery store vegetables. We have a full-time person that's dedicated to that area, and she spent the past several months training with the providers of the greenhouse on all the systems to ensure a very safe operation. Next, when is Vickers Woods to open? So when the construction of the garage is complete, which is anticipated to be around July 1st, access to Vickers Woods will be restored. As part of that, we will repair any issues with the bridge that goes over into the woods. We're adding water service. We're cleaning out any dead vegetation. We'll replace the wood fence along the back between our property and the TPC, and we'll be adding a power supply back there as well. Next question, why can't Sawgrass have coffee in the lobby area on Sunday as they do at Oak Ridge? So I've had to research this. I've been told that we did have a coffee set up in the lobby of the dining room, since that's where breakfast is offered on Sundays. But there was so little participation that they changed that to a Keurig setup. So there's a Keurig machine there, which still happens on Sundays. So feel free to enjoy a cup of coffee there on Sunday mornings. So in the lobby of the dining room. Next, our residents in Stratford are experiencing a dining challenge. The food selection is limited, the food is served cold, and the wait staff is poorly trained. This has been reported to Robert many times, and he has promises to look into it, but nothing changes. What can be done to help our friends? First, as to the thought of limited selection, on the day I received this, I actually went and looked at the Stratford lunch menu, and it had a soup and a salad option, 3 entree options, 3 sides, in addition to dessert. And as with the main dining room, there's also an alternate menu, which has 9 entree selections and several appetizers and sides. So there's certainly not limited selection there. There are plenty to choose from. And if someone has a specific medical dietary restriction, we of course accommodate those at being a healthcare area. As to the temperature of the food, since that is a healthcare related kitchen, we're required to take temperatures for everything coming out of that kitchen, which is directly adjacent to the dining room. And it's plated on warm plates. So my thought is if someone is receiving a cold meal, perhaps they're having it delivered to their room. And so that, of course, the carrying time from the kitchen up to their room and however long it takes them to set it up would cool the plate. But there should be warm food that's coming if you're eating in the dining room of the Stratford. Finally, as to the service, Robert has been working, as you heard in his presentation, with the dining committee on a staff training manual that's being finalized, and so additional training for staff will be provided based on that when it is complete. Next, when will we have an update on the long-range plan? So, as I reported previously, there's no more action to take until Oak Ridge is complete and stabilized, other than the garage, which will also be completed this year. As I reported earlier, we're investigating whether we can build onto the Stratford instead of replacing it, but I still don't have an answer there. But when I have something, I will discuss that with the original master plan committee to determine if it makes sense to make that change. And if we do, then again, I'll make additional presentations available to members here at the auditorium. How is the temperature for the common areas determined? So, I'm guessing someone thinks it's cold. So, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, recommends temperature control for common areas of commercial buildings be set in a range of 68 to 76 degrees, with humidity control in the range of 20 to 60% to remove contaminants and control issues that come from humidity. So we do keep our temperatures on the high end of that range, so 74 to 75 degrees is where we keep it, and that's how it's determined. We want to make sure that the buildings are safe, first and foremost. So if you find that chilly, bring a sweater. Next question is, when is the next Leadership Connect session? Last one was January 21st. I was hoping there would be at least one each quarter. So as you heard from Elizabeth's presentation, the next session will be next Wednesday in the small conference room here at Sawgrass. And we hold them the third Wednesday of every month on alternating campuses. So last month on April 15th, we were at Oak Ridge. On March 18th, we were here at Sawgrass. On February 18th, we were at Oak Ridge. And then, of course, as this person mentions, on January 21st, we were here at Sawgrass. So we will have one next week, and then the one in June will be held at the Oak Ridge campus. Next, there was an executive desk column in the November 13th Vickers Voice announcing an update of the master plan on November 18th in the Sawgrass Auditorium. I assume there would be future executive desk columns, but I don't believe there have been any in 2026 Vickers Voice issues. So we did have several executive desk columns in 2025 to discuss key issues that were coming up. We certainly can make that a regular column if that's the wish of the Vickers Voice and the members. We can certainly continue to make that happen. When will access walkway from Oak Ridge be approved and completed? So as stated earlier, that depends on Publix, and we are working hard to make that happen. What is the April 30th balance of Vickers Foundation account? Please provide activity and expense paid from Vickers Foundation in 2025. So the foundation is part of Life Care Ponte Vedra, so it is all on the statement of operations that you receive. So the expenses are under expenses, and funds raised are under changes in net assets under the headings interest income - fundraising, restricted and unrestricted contributions, and golf tournament receipts. So April isn't yet closed, but the cash balance was just over $754,000. As to the 2025 results, you can come get a copy of 2025, and again, it's on the statement of operations under those headings. Next, what are responsibilities of new development director? Will members fund be under her direction? So the development director runs all the activities of the Vickers Landing Foundation, which is an entity of Life Care Ponte Vedra. The members fund is a separate entity that's owned and managed by the members. So she will not have any control or say there. Those are two separate funds. Next, the difference between the members fund, the scholarship fund, the Christmas fund. Explain in written form to all members. So those are all activities of the members fund, which is a separate corporation owned and managed by the members. So whoever submitted this question I would recommend they speak to the member council. You can speak to Nancy Mock or one of the leaders on the member council, and they can help explain that. What I can tell you is the scholarship fund is a part of the overall members fund, and the holiday fund is an annual donation that represents any tipping you might do during the year, and then that's given to all staff under the department head level. So anyone department head and above does not participate in that. That's given at the holidays as a gift to our staff. Finally, I received a couple of questions that were quite long, so I didn't retype them, so I'll read them here. The first says there was a $500,521 reduction in the change in net assets from the 12/31/25 internal financial statements presented to the residents on 3/19/26 and the audited financial statements fiscal year end 12/31/25 dated 4/28/26. This is a material reduction. Will management please provide a specific line item reconciliation showing exactly what changed between the preliminary internal financial statements and the final audit at 12/31/25 that shows each balance sheet and statement of operations line item that was adjusted that resulted in the reduction in the change in net assets. So this was all reviewed in detail with the member finance committee. It was largely adjustments to non-cash items, and so I would refer this person to Mr. Westerveld, to someone on the member finance committee to get a further explanation. And then they go on to say the LCPS management company uses the property, plant, and equipment of Vickers Landing and Ponte Vedra. In the past, LCPS mainly managed Vickers Landing at PV. In 2025, LCPS started the planning and development of E-Town It now appears that Vickers Landing NPV, property, plant, and equipment, including its intangible assets, name, goodwill, branding, reputation, customers list, associates list, and use of offices and support staff are being used to develop and subsidize the expansion project of E-Town. The entrance fees and monthly fees received from residents of Vickers Landing located in Ponte Vedra and the above-mentioned assets are intended for the exclusive use and maintenance of the existing facilities and residents of Vickers Landing and Ponte Vedra, and not for the expansion project of E-Town. If this is accurate during 2025 and year-to-date 2026, how are the costs being determined for the use of Vickers Landing in Ponte Vedra, PP&E, including intangible assets and support staff, offices, and equipment to plan and develop E-Town? These costs and transactions should be fully disclosed, documented, and valued in an arm's-length transaction and charged at fair market value so that Vickers Landing in Ponte Vedra is properly reimbursed. So all that is being done in the direction of the LCPS Board of Directors, who has the authority and responsibility over those matters. As we've mentioned, Ponte Vedra Beach is not covering any of the E-Town costs. We're not using any of the Ponte Vedra Beach staff. So again, this is a separate operation, separate corporation, and I will leave that there. So I did have one submission that was submitted late. It was just submitted to me today, and these were questions I could answer off the top of my head, so I will go ahead and read these. The first one, what are the little houses on top of the garage for? So what looks like little houses, little roof peaks, are just it's an architectural detail at the top of the elevator shaft and the stairwell. And it's meant to make it blend in with the more residential look of this community. Second, when will Vickers Woods open? I mentioned that after the garage is done, we will open that back up. And then finally, why can't you take the armadillos further away so they don't keep coming back? We tried talking to the armadillos, but no, when the armadillos are removed, they are removed far from the campus. So if you are seeing additional armadillos, they're not the same armadillos. So, but more for us to catch and relocate, rehome. So those are all the questions that were submitted ahead of time. We are happy to take questions from the floor. As usual, Edgar has a microphone, and he will come around, so please wait until he's given you the microphone so everyone can hear your question.
My name is Andy Watson. I live in Oak Ridge.
Yes, sir.
I'm the guilty party of sending the questions in an improper manner, so I want to know what's the proper manner. I sent an email to Todd. It's supposed to go to admin, so who should that go to?
It was fine, since it was a finance question. Todd was the right guy to answer it.
Now, as you can tell from questions, this meeting and the last meeting, many people are concerned about E-Town. That's a natural thing. I happen to believe it's a great idea to have new facilities to attract the next generation that comes. And it's been made clear several times by you and others that E-Town is a separate corporation.
Yes, sir.
Well understood. Common method is to cauterize one borrowing set and assets of Vickers Landing from E-Town. So that if you got in trouble at E-Town, our assets and our cash flows here are separate.
Completely.
That's the point you've made.
Correct.
Presumably also the reason why you're doing E-Town is to strengthen the financial standing of the combined entity. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. That implies that although you needn't transfer assets and cash from one entity to the other, you can do it if you need to. Is that correct?
Technically, yes.
Technically,
The
yes.
board could
So
make that
if
decision.
you were in violation of covenants, for instance, at E-Town, for some reason, that's not a good thing to be in violation of covenants.
Correct.
You could temporarily transfer cash from Vickers, which maybe I vote for as well, but you could do that. Is that correct?
The board could.
Yeah, all right. I think that's the point that a lot of people would come behind.
Sure.
Is the intent and what could be theoretically could be a drain.
Sure.
It could be a drain of management time. I think that's the point that a lot of people have tried to get to, rather than the simple answer that it's a separate entity.
Sure. Well, and all I can do is assure you there. I know that this board would not allow that to happen.
Well, maybe you should allow it to happen, because if you're in violation of covenant, and you don't unduly weaken Vickers, that might be a very good step to take. All right, thank you.
Thank you. There are other questions up front, Amber? He's coming.
Hi, Bruce.
There we go.
Thank you. Just to answer that, the board owes a fiduciary duty to Vickers, this entity. And to take cash, move it to another entity, would have to be the fiduciary responsibility would have to be met, or you wouldn't do that.
You're right.
And in order to do that, I don't know how you would take a note back or what would be the consideration, but I regard that as a highly unlikely scenario.
Yeah.
At least if the board is aware of it, and of course they are.
Yes.
Count on Mike on that one. So anyway, I'm just adding that. And just one question for you. Sure. What's the game plan for refinancing the debt? Got a lot of debt on the balance sheet there, and it's coming due pretty soon. What's the state of play?
So right now, there's no plan to refinance the existing debt. To do the master plan, we would take on additional debt. But the long-term debt that we have in place is a fantastic interest rate. We would not meet that in today's environment. So it wouldn't make sense to refinance that. We were three, what, on the long-term debt? Low threes. Yeah, like 3.25. So in this interest rate environment, you're not going to see that. So it wouldn't make sense for us to refinance because that's just greater cost. So once it gets to the point of doing the master plan work, we would just take out a new issue.
Don't you have some debt that's coming due like in 2029?
The short-term debt is being paid off through entrance fees, receipts, and operations. So that will get paid down.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is kind of the extension of the gentleman in the back about E-Town.
Mm-hmm.
You have said that you're not paying any expenses.
Mhm.
However, you know, your mailing address is here,
Mhm.
so you are using our facilities.
Mhm.
And that was, you know, involved in the question that you read,
Mhm.
really didn't answer. And you're using our intangible assets, our staff. For instance, when you sit in your office,
Mhm.
you have your E-Town add-on, you know, we're paying for all those facilities that you're using. The
Mhm.
equipment, the office, the staff that you call in to help you do those jobs for E-Town.
Mhm.
And we're getting no compensation. So that's what I was asking about, you know, that type of remuneration for the use of our name on E-Town and all that goodwill, and the use of our customer list and the staff and the building. Why aren't we getting compensated for that?
Well, you're saying the use of our name. The board has control of the name and the operations. So, you know, the brand is not owned by the members. The brand is owned by the corporation, and there's certainly no way that we would create any ill will for the brand. It's our duty to uphold the brand
But if
that we
something
put out there.
happens at E-Town, you have indeed done that. And I'm just, the board's financial and fiduciary responsibility is to protect our assets.
Mhm.
And the use of those facilities, the name, the intangibles, we should be getting something back for that risk, and we're not. And then in relationship to the other question that you didn't answer concerning the adjustment to our, you know, internal financial statements, we come here quarterly and we listen to the presentation. We rely on those numbers, and we had a $500,000 negative adjustment to that income, which I think should be explained to the members. In 2023, there was a $700,000 adjustment. It was never really explained. And you say it's depreciation or non-cash. And depreciation is vital for a GAAP financial statement, because otherwise you're inflating your net income statement and your balance sheet. And we have a right under GAAP to do that, to appreciate where our assets stand and what that expense is.
And having been on the member finance committee before, Mrs. MacArthur, you know that Todd goes into the great detail with that group as representatives of the members rather than going line item.
But Todd comes and gives us our internal financial statements. So we're entitled to know, because if that information that goes to the finance committee doesn't seem to get to the members. And they're entitled to know what that adjustment was and what happened.
Well, my recommendation again is to meet with the member finance committee chair, and if that's not satisfactory, then I would suggest making an appointment with Todd, and he can review
But
that.
how do the members, the people in this room, get that information?
Again, the committee, the member committee structure is meant to represent the members, and so that's why he spends so much time and effort going through all of the detail with that group so they can share with members.
But we're not the only ones to get those internal financial statements. Frisk, for instance, that does your bond rating, are they aware that you had a $500,000 adjustment to net income?
Fitch reviews us every year. We've already had that conversation with them.
But they review your internal financial statements, not your audited financial statements.
Right. Oh, they do get the audit. Yes, sir.
Bruce, I think there's a simple solution to this dilemma that we've heard from several people.
You're on. Yes, sir.
The simple solution would be for your for-profit management company to pay rent, phone, communication services for your space and use of this facility.
It's not for profit. It's not for profit. All of the
No, your management company.
the management company is not for profit. It's 501c3.
I thought that was the whole problem.
No, but it doesn't make any difference.
Other questions? Not seeing any. Thank you for your participation today. I hope you have a